as they should have been. Training is like a lifestyle for me, so I never have an issue with preparation. If you put me and Ruiz in a machine, 9 times out of 10 I should beat him. And that was just in like, we got the win, and we get to do it again at the end of the year.
I've probably watched this fight like 10 times already. And I don't watch fights often when I've seen the fight already. I kind of give it some time to marinate and I'll go back to it.
What's interesting with you saying that is, I wouldn't have watched that fight again. So with this fight here, I feel like where I've been fighting for so many years, when I come into the boxing arena, it was like I was steamrolling through. So we're just, Josh was going to fight, boom, knock him out. So from walking into a gym to 3 years later competing at the Olympics, returning professional to 3 years later becoming a world champion, it seemed like this was already written in the stars. But I think behind the scenes, it's like the efforts and the education and the mind training, that skills or capabilities to be in that position are tiring.
When it's all said and done, the fans, most of them, only see a few clips of you training and then fight night.
Correct.
They don't see the hard graft, the hard sparring. They don't see all of the background story. So to them, it's almost, or to a lot of people, it's almost like, oh yeah, AJ's fighting tonight, AJ's gonna win. But they forget there's someone there who's trained for you as well.
Yeah, who's waiting for their moment as well. I don't really truly respect what it is that you're trying to achieve. And even myself, when it's going pretty well, it is what it is.
Let's have it right. There's no easy fights when you're a unified heavyweight champion. That's there are fights that are probably easier than others, but you still have to train hard to make it look so easy.
My purpose for that fight was, am I fighting Wilder next? The purpose for that fight was, what is he doing next on winning that fight? Do you know what I mean? So this is quite an interesting situation we can talk about now, looking back on the result.
So let's go for it. Usually when the ring announcer's announcing you don't look quite like that, which was a little bit just within yourself. Do you remember how you felt?
No pressure. There's no gain. There's no gain from me. I'm in America. I'm not just gone there because he wanted to do big things in boxing. And the good thing is, even though any of my fights you come to, and what I've learned, even though I lost that fight, it's still a massive defining moment in my career. Every fight that I think you come to of mine, you'll always leave with something to cherish. But this fight, in terms of what it meant, there was no real gain in it. So beating Ruiz, I could be sitting here now and it wouldn't have meant as much to with something to cherish. But this fight, in terms of what it meant, there was no real gain in it. So beating Ruiz, I could be sitting here now and it wouldn't have meant as much to me as what it's going to mean to me to train for the rematch.
Were you aware of looking like that?
No.
It's mad.
Just felt so relaxed. Like, I know I'm capable of doing it.
I was watching it and I was thinking,
According to Eddie Hearn, Anthony Joshua versus Andy Ruiz rematch is set for December 7th in Saudi Arabia. But Andy Ruiz recently stated on his Twitter that he's not accepting $9 million. He needs at least $50 million. While in recent interviews he said he wanted $50 million. Is that a duck, or do Andy Ruiz deserve $50 million to fight Anthony Joshua in a rematch? The video you just listened to was an interview from Max Boxing, and I believe it's a guy from the UK. It kind of popped up in my recommended. But anyway, I'm glad it did because I get to talk about it. Before I get to Andy Ruiz not accepting the $9 million to fight Anthony Joshua in Saudi Arabia, and where I actually believe the fight should take place, I like to talk about the interview we just listened to. So Anthony Joshua reflect on his loss to Andy Ruiz Jr. He stated a few things that I believe myself. I'm glad he said it. And guys, as you can see, I show a lot of pictures of Anthony Joshua in Miami living his best life. Anthony Joshua was supposed to fight Gerard Big Baby Miller. Big Baby Miller tested positive for I don't know how many drugs, about 4 or 5 drugs. But it is what it is. A lot of people test positive, but that was just over the top. In my opinion, that was a little fishy and a little suspect, but it is what it is. Anyway, the fight never happened. And Mr. Landlord, Anthony Joshua, he calls himself, he went to collect his rent money from Gerard Big Baby Miller. But because that fight never went through, he had to fight Andy Ruiz Jr. And in this interview, he said a lot of the things I was feeling. He said a lot of the things I was doing. Now, there's a picture of Andy Ruiz Jr. Andy Ruiz Jr. has stated he wants to lose weight for the Anthony Joshua rematch. I think it's a horrible idea. I think he'll get knocked out easier if he loses that weight, because with all that weight, he could take punches better. If he loses the weight, he's going to get knocked out faster. So I think he needs to keep the weight on to be able to take Anthony Joshua punches. But when Anthony Joshua came to the U.S., I mean, he's been here a couple times. I remember him coming for the Warriors game, and they called him Anthony Johnson on national television. It was hilarious. They forgot the guy last name. They call him Anthony Johnson instead of Anthony Joshua. But be that as it may, Anthony Joshua, he said he didn't take this fight serious. He didn't take Andy Ruiz serious. He underestimated the guy. Anthony Joshua completely underestimated Andy Ruiz. He did not take that fight seriously, and it cost him. It cost him big, guys. He lost that fight, even though there were rumors after the fight of Anthony Joshua getting knocked out by Joey DeWecko, a guy from a heavyweight boxer from Philadelphia. But rumors are not getting knocked out in sparring. Anthony Joshua said what he said. Anthony Joshua was in Miami living his best life. He said it himself. He just couldn't get up for the Andy Ruiz Jr. fight. He just couldn't get up. The fight didn't excite him. But what do excite him is him getting up for the rematch. And he feels like 9 out of 10 times he beats Andy Ruiz Jr. if they were put in like a machine or something. Guys, I totally agree with Anthony Joshua. He underestimated Andy Ruiz because of his physique, because of the person he was. He was already locked in and loaded to fight Gerard Big Baby Miller. But he got sidetracked. So he was like, you know what? I don't need to get up and train for this guy. I feel like that was the biggest mistake of his career by far, by not really training for this. He probably felt like he was going to get this guy out of there in 2 rounds. So did everybody in the entire boxing world. This guy was a huge underdog. Anthony Joshua was a huge favorite. What, like a 11-1 favorite? Anthony Joshua, I forgot exactly what round it was. I believe the 3rd round. He dropped Anthony Joshua. He dropped Andy Ruiz. We thought the fight was over. And we've never seen Andy Ruiz hit the canvas. Anthony Joshua dropped Andy Ruiz, and he went in for the kill, and he got caught, and he got dropped, and almost stopped. And for the rest of the fight, Anthony Joshua was never the same. He got stopped in the 7th round. When the referee asked him if he wanted to continue, Anthony Joshua wasn't fast enough to respond. I mean, there were instances in that fight when he spit his mouthpiece out. He just looked like he didn't want to be there. He just looked like his mind was somewhere else. And he admitted that in that interview you guys listened to a little bit. I may leave the link in the description section. Anthony Joshua just wasn't focused for this fight, and it cost him. But in the rematch, I got Anthony Joshua winning this fight by knockout. I don't see this fight going the distance. I think Anthony Joshua is on a different level when it comes to a lot of these heavyweights. I don't know if he could take Deontay Wilder's right hand flush, but I think he's on a different level when it comes to a lot of these heavyweights. There's no way at 18-0 Anthony Joshua should have beat a guy like Vladimir Klitschko. Just like 18-0 Anthony Yard is going into enemy territory to defeat Sergey Kovalev. In my opinion, I believe Anthony Yard is going to win that fight. I'll do a video with that on that fight later. But with that being said, I believe Anthony Joshua is 100% ready for this rematch. Anthony Joshua is more focused. I'm glad Eddie Hearn made this rematch immediately while they're still struggling to get a specific venue or place and a date for this rematch, even though the announcement for Saudi Arabia, but Andy Ruiz said he hasn't signed off on the contract. But when it is signed and sealed, I got Anthony Joshua going back in there and getting his titles back to make the heavyweight division a little shaken up again. Anthony Joshua is the much better fighter. Andy Ruiz, he has had his 5-6 months of fame, and it's time to return the belts back to the rightful owner, and Anthony Joshua. This is the guy they said that stopped Anthony Joshua, Joey DeWecco, in sparring. You know, if that was the case, I feel like Eddie Hearn, being the promoter of Anthony Joshua, should be on top of stuff like this. You have to know what's going on in sparring, what's going on with your fighter, because you don't want to put the guy in a fight where you know everything is on the line and he got stopped in sparring. But I am not going to make any excuses for Anthony Joshua. He lost fair and square to Andy Ruiz Jr. But in the rematch, I just don't see Andy Ruiz winning that fight. I think Anthony Joshua has too much firepower for a guy like Andy Ruiz. And I think Anthony Joshua will dominate Andy Ruiz in the rematch and stop him in impressive fashion to get his belts back. But yeah, if you're new to the channel, do me a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification icon for more videos like this. If you have a topic you want me to touch on, drop your topic in the comment section. I'll give you my full and honest, unbiased opinion on the sport we all love, boxing.